welcome to the Improv Summit. As always, I'm your host, Spencer. With me today, I have a very special guest. And because I was told one day that I always say I have a very special guest, I decided to change it up a little bit and take the person's first letter, their first name, put an adjective in front of it, that old improv game. So today I have with me, absolutely, Andrew.
Nice.
I think that's an adjective. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. If not an adverb, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, it could be an adverb because adverbs, they modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So you're welcome, Schoolhouse Rock.
As we
Anyway,
all know. Yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock, that's how I learned that. I don't actually just know that. But it's
Yeah.
like adverbs here, and they go, now does a modify an adjective, modify a verb, whatever. The point is, let's talk about
Mhm.
improv.
Okay.
By the way, on this show, just so you know, I'm terrible with segues. I have very bad segues on this show, but that's the whole beauty of it all. That's why people tune in, is to see what segue I'm gonna do next. And it's usually more of a Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 than a Paul Blart Mall Cop or an Observe and Report. So it's really like pretty much a Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 segue. You're too young for that reference. Just kidding. That movie came out
Yeah.
like I
Like,
was
oh
definitely
yeah.
like
Segue.
barely in my 20s when that movie came out. No,
Mm.
no, I was like in high school. Wait, hold on. I don't know. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. I think it came out in, I might have been in college. I don't know. Anyway, let's dive in, shall we? Let's talk about you, Andrew, and your improv experience. What is your improv experience?
Yeah, I have been doing improv in college for about 3 years, and I also went to IO very briefly to do a documentary with one of my friends,
In Chicago
Lucian,
or
and
in the West?
in Chicago. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that was about around the time that we met, actually, is when we were in Chicago making that documentary. But that was
Oh,
really
okay.
fun to see that. And then and then from there have just been kind of like using improv in stand-up sometimes, in sketch comedy sometimes, in film as well. But also doing, long form and short form on the side. So yeah.
Yeah, great. We got a couple things we can talk about for sure because I want to talk about improv and film and sketch. But before I do that, another question I always ask, which is a very simple question. I say simple, but that's more in like quotes. What do you love about improv? What keeps you coming back to improv or wanting to continue to learn improv and do improv? What do you love about improv?
The thing that I love about improv the most is probably the spontaneity of like saying something, and then like your mind catches up with you, and you and like that's when you think it is, like when it's already a couple of sentences or words in, is probably like the
Mm,
most fun. But I think I just like when it works, and you make some, like, you do an improv scene that like has a tone or like heartfelt or something, and you're just like, oh wow, this is the silliest thing ever, but it has like setups and payoffs and all that kind of
mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, the beauty of truth and comedy, as they say, as the IO book we had
Mm.
to read. Because apparently, when you take 101s in improv schools, you actually have to read books. But Truth and Comedy was a lot. It was very much taking like what you already know and just incorporating it into improv. So like these like scenes that you're talking about, like these like heartfelt scenes, somehow can be super funny because they're so relatable. Which I think is what a lot of people forget about in improv. Is a lot of times with improv, people want to be like funny, 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 funny. Like I've got to get the joke out. I got to say something super funny so everyone's gonna laugh. And the more you force yourself to make funny things happen, the less likely you are to be funny. And that's the beauty of improv when you really take it from, as you're saying, like these heartfelt scenes. When you really bring it from a moment of truth, it really can be a heartfelt scene, but it also can be really funny because of how relatable it is.
Yeah, definitely. And then, also too, the thing that they talk about all the time is just like supporting your other cast members and just kind of living in everything, and not trying to be like jokey all the
Mhm.
time. But yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, so you talked about in your intro a little bit about using improv for film, for sketch, for stand up. By the way, I've done improvised stand up, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, for those that are watching, is I would start. They give me like 3 minutes or whatever, and every minute they would just give me a new topic on the screen behind me, and I'd have to just kind of look and just start talking about it. So I had no idea what I was going to be talking about. And I remember I had
Wow.
Valentine's Day and Justice, and I did really well on that one. And then I had something that was like
Mhm.
writing on the bathroom, like writing in bathroom stalls was another one. But like I just didn't know what I was going to talk about until then. Which generally in this term, stand up is more of a scripted kind of element. There's a little bit of audience interaction, but overall it's pretty scripted. Same with film and same with sketch. And so I want to kind of dive in a little bit to that film sketch stand up world when it comes to scripted elements, scripted
Yeah.
stories. And because you said that you sometimes throw improv into sketch or film or whatever the case may be. So I want to talk about a little bit about what is one of the biggest things that you've noticed, or one of the best ways you feel like you can incorporate improv into, say, let's say, for instance, let's start with sketch. So for a sketch, what would be for you like something like a way that you really like incorporating improv into a sketch, a written sketch?
Yeah. So at FSU, I'm part of a sketch group that kind of is from Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, the neo-futurist
Mm-hmm.
stuff from Chicago. So already those are in the same vein of like the Second City, where they have like these very loosely beaded out scenes that they then go up and do in front of their group and come up with like different sketches, and then they kind of revise them. That's kind of the same way that 30 and 60, the group that I'm a part of, operates.
30 to
And
60 still going
so already,
strong. All right, good for them.
oh yeah, were you
I think I think
did you know
I
about
wasn't
it?
in it. I wasn't in it, but I think they started around when I was there, and they might have
Oh,
started a couple
okay.
years before I was there. But I don't know when they were founded. But I don't know. But I
No,
saw a
no,
couple. I
that's
saw the Valentine shows every like year that they did it.
no way. So that was a thing even back then, the Valentine Day shows.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's the only show I actually saw.
Oh wow, no, that's
And
awesome.
then I was
That's
I was around when No Bears Allowed like formed. Um,
mhm.
like it was like a year or two. Like I was like already a year or two, and I think when they formed.
Wow.
So like I'm like old school
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
improv sketch viewer from Florida State.
No,
Um,
that's
way old
yeah.
school.
I'd love to pick your brain about that sometime. That's interesting
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's definitely cool to see how many. Do you know why it's called No Bears Allowed?
I don't actually.
That's been a question they've always been trying to figure out, but they had never have. So
I may know some founding members though.
okay, yeah, no, that'd be cool.
I may. I can't guarantee that I do, but I do know
Yeah,
some
yeah,
members from years ago who may know the founding members if I don't, who may have that
yeah,
answer. Or if you're
yeah,
if you're in No Bears Allowed and you're watching this right now, just go ahead and leave a comment in the
yeah,
YouTube section and just let us know why it's called No Bears Allowed. Unless it's related to the old Shakespeare exit pursued by bear. I don't know if that's potentially the reason. That's the reason for everything with bears and Shakespeare. So
wow,
that's a thing. But
very well read. That's
here
crazy.
on the Improv Summit Philosophical Edition, haven't had that one yet. We've had a lot of food editions, but today it's the philosophical edition. But segueing back into sketch because that's how I segue. Um, I want to just like so like an example of like for instance, I've done like at Second City we do character sketches, and so for
Yeah.
my grad review, I remember I had one sketch, it got completely cut, and I asked my director about it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I guess we're not doing that one anymore." Like casually, just like threw it out. But I already had another character, so it was like one character per person in the show. But it
Oh,
was a
okay.
guy who was like he was Larry the Lounge Singer, who
Mhm.
basically he would call out people, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you two, yeah, he's embezzling funds from your company," but he would like sing it all, and he's like, "I gotcha," and they're like, no, we don't even work together. I gotcha, haha. But now,
Yeah,
so now everything's totally fine. And it was this idea of playing where I had these scripted moments with these characters, like the guests at the diner or the dinner, the theater or whatever, the dinner,
yeah,
whatever, the restaurant. Good God, I cannot think of that word, a restaurant.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but a lot of times my castmates would change the answers to the script that I wrote, so I'd have
Oh,
to
really?
listen. but it didn't affect my character's response. Because my
Mhm.
character always go, just kidding, I got you. And they're like, no, we literally told you this isn't how it works. But it was fun to play with that because they would essentially improvise what was written in the script. It was still the same POV and the same like idea, but it was just rewritten for whatever they wanted to. So in that regard, that's one thing that I noticed with sketch where improv can kind of come into play. But for you, what's like an example of using improv in a sketch?
Yeah. We were doing one sketch. It was kind of like an absurd sketch called What Happens at the Ring Factory. And we were doing a performance in front of an audience, and we already kind of knew the way that the sketch was going to go. And just like the night of, it was the 30 and 60 Valentine show, actually. But the night of, we were like doing it and just kind of came up with sending each, it was the way that it was like a, each person was making rings at a ring factory, and all the rings
Mm-hmm.
were not, they were not like good enough for, apparently was the premise. And so I just said, now you go on the conveyor belt. And then the person had to pretend to be going on a conveyor belt, kind of like randomly, and pantomime that. And so that was like a thing where it's like we hadn't thought of like a conveyor belt before, but it made sense within the context of the sketch for there to be one. And it kind of like heightened the absurdity and comedy of like making each employee in the factory leave because their ring
Mm-hmm.
wasn't good enough. And so like it was just a method for them to get out of there that was also funny because I said it, and then like the other cast member was surprised, but then they didn't like stop a beat. They just kind of like went off into the conveyor belt and then came back around in the way that like a conveyor belt does. And so that got a laugh. So
Mm.
just a little example, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
feel like
great.
a lot of times with sketch, it's like, little lines here and there to kind of like stuff that you just think of that makes sense for the scene.
Mm-hmm.
But most of that is really ad-libbing rather than improv, like true improv.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is from one film student to another film student, improvising in film is just such a different beast, I feel like. Because with sketch, it's like, okay, this little joke you can throw out, whatever, it's fine, like if it's live or not. When you're filming and you're kind of on a time crunch, as you always are when you're filming anything, like I know that for me, when I do, especially when I direct comedy, I tend to say like, okay, let's do a take as written, and then once I feel like I got what I have written, I say, let's just play with this take. Like literally do whatever you want in this take. And sometimes I like what they do, sometimes I don't like what they do. But at least I know that I've got the scripted, what I've scripted is there. So if anything, I have that to use. And so for me, that's kind of like one of the things that I find where I play with improv is sometimes I'll get a really funny line in the improv and I'll just throw that in. I'll cut to something else and then cut back to this line. So it's two different takes, which, we manipulate film as much as we want because we have all the time to edit it. Not all the time, but for you,
Yeah.
as far as like film, what is, I guess, in the same vein as the sketch, what is something that you do as far as like incorporating improv into film, whether you're writing or directing?
Mhm.
Film, something behind the scenes, behind camera.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I have done a lot of like comedy dramas or like mostly comedies with a little bit of drama in them.
Hmm.
And a lot of the times when we're actually filming it, we'll kind of like discover things in the space. And I kind of like say to the actors, like, the words, like, don't make sure that, you're doing the words exactly. You can kind of like mess them up a little bit so that they sound a little bit more natural. And then, every now and again, we'll add like a line, but a lot of the times I feel like it's really just kind of using the space in like a funny way. So
Yeah, sure.
two examples that I can think of that is like I had one film where it was a pastor kind of like telling like a camp counselor at a goofy church camp like, hey, it's gonna be okay, buddy. And then when he exits the room, he like hits the top of a door frame, and then like a little um, wet wipes canister just like falls on the ground. And that was something that like
Mm-hmm.
we staged it, but like it was something that wasn't in the script. And then another thing was like we just had gotten into this RV location for a film, and we hadn't been inside the RV. Like the actors came from out of town,
Mm-hmm.
playing with a with like a curtain that wouldn't move all the way to, like, he was like, I hate you, mom, and like trying to like shut the curtain of the room in the RV, and then like it wouldn't shut. So just stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, just like very little things.
Yeah,
um
and it's interesting because like even like with the curtain, like I'm even thinking of how in that moment it's not going right, but it is because if the actor is a professional, they can stay in that character and like really be yanking at this curtain and like forget it. I don't even want to hear from you anymore. Anyways, and like they can keep
right.
going in there and you have this nice moment. Sometimes you get actors, and I can't say that I'm completely not at fault here, but sometimes you get actors who are like, the curtain's not moving. I'm like, no, we're in the middle of a take. Don't stop. Like, don't, ah, like, don't, like,
Yeah,
just keep going. Like, I don't care if you can close the curtain or not. I really don't care. That's not the important part to me. The important part to me is what is coming out of your mouth and what you're doing here. I don't care that the curtain's not closing. And I think that
right.
that's something that's like where, in a way, improv for camera comes into play. Because a lot of times
Hmm.
actors think of like scripted stuff versus improv, where there's no real combination between the two. There's no balance. But really, if you're performing on camera, you're doing the same lines over and over. But every take, in theory, you're doing a take every time differently. If I have you do a take again and it's not
Hmm.
for camera, I kind of expect you to do something different.
Yeah, yeah,
Whether or
yeah.
not you understand what I'm saying or whether or not I know exactly what I want, if you do the exact same take, the exact same read of the line, it's not really a take that I can use because I just had that same exact take in
Hmm.
the take before. And so I think that that's
Right.
like where in that moment, like having improv training at least has helped me on camera when I'm on camera as an actor
Hmm.
because I know that like the camera's rolling. It actually happened recently. I was doing a sketch for a buddy of mine and I came in late in the day. They were like, "We'll just film you out." I didn't rehearse at all, and they're like, "We're just gonna get you into this." I'm like, "Sure," and they're like, "Just figure it out." I'm like, "Okay." I walked in, found a mark because I was in between two characters, did the whole thing, and I walked off, and they were like, "That was really good without any rehearsal." Like I just showed up on set and did the thing. I was done in like 20 minutes, and it's because I realized, look, there's the camera. This is the main character. I'm talking to this main character. I'm going to find a way to place myself in here, and so I'm kind of improvising in my head in a way of how to navigate through this, even if it's not like what I think of as like improv is like, let me tell this funny joke that I'm making up
Hmm.
on the spot. It's like I have to kind of improvise my surroundings. How do I make this take work? If I have one take, which I've done, I had a scene once where I had to shave my beard on camera,
Hmm.
and my character's like really like frustrated, and the kids that were working with me as a teacher, their kids, they're like, how did you not laugh during that? You were so funny. I'm like, because I knew I had one take, because once my beard is gone, I can't just put it back and do another take. So I
Right.
had to know in my mind, and I had the director going, sing this part, just do this. Like there was no dialogue for my character. It was just me like freaking out and doing stuff. He's like, talk about that kid, talk about that kid. And so it was me just like make up words. And so I was just doing that like while I'm in the process of shaving my face and realizing that once this take is over, there is literally nothing else that the director can
Right.
use because
Right.
I won't have a beard at that point. And so I think that that's so going off of what you're saying with the curtain. It's just all it brings me back to this curtain. In that moment, actors with that improv training will instinctively not worry about the curtain. They'll yank on it. It'll get them frustrated to get them into that mindset of I hate you, mom, or whatever. But like, even if they like, it's like, whatever. You should fix the curtain, mom. Anyways, I'm so mad at you. Like having that
Yeah.
moment where they can even add in a little something where, again, as in film, if I don't like it, I can cut to the reaction shot. I don't have to use all of this that is like, yank it. I could cut to the yank of the curtain. I can have a sound and cut to the mom. Like I don't like if it's not working, it's not working. But I think
Hmm.
that that's a great way to incorporate balance into improvise on camera for camera because a lot of times we do improvise for theater or for sketch. We don't
Right.
necessarily improvise for camera, and I think that that is such a great example of how to incorporate something of improv. If something's not going right, like I've seen professional actors on set. Something falls in the middle of the scene, and they know it's there, and they know it's like important. and they'll just keep talking, and they'll go and they'll, like pick up something, put it down. They'll just casually walk over and grab it as they're talking.
Yeah.
And it looks natural. It looks perfect. It looks wonderful. They fixed the thing, and it has saved my take, and we can move on. Versus the ones who
Yeah.
are like, this
And
thing fell. This thing fell. Do you want to fix it? No, I want you to
right.
keep going. I don't care that the thing fell.
I mean, and a lot of the times, like the scene is better for it, and you just kind of like are able to, especially if it is a comedic scene, you're just able to have like a natural moment where the characters just kind of respond organically as a person would, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
funny because there's this obstruction in their path, and they're like,
Mm-hmm. And it even
not trying to like
happens.
make a joke out of it, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, and it happens like on a daily basis because I was thinking I did a tour one day, and one of the things we have to say is move your and if you have any small children with you, move them towards the center of the tram for their own safety. And I was doing it, and for some reason my brain just went, also no small children. And I said, wait, hold on, no. And everyone started laughing. And I went, no, that's not what I mean. You can have small children. You can definitely have them on the tour. What I mean is, if you have them, don't have them by the windows. But the whole group, all the guests were laughing because it was such an unplanned moment. I wasn't like, here's the script that I'm saying. It was me going, no, that's not what I meant. And such a fun moment. And like in that moment, I was like, I'm gonna try this again, but it'll never work again with me
Mhm.
thinking it's gonna work again. And so that's where like those moments are, like you said, it's so great that sometimes it's better for it because I might not even have thought of that as the director, and I'm like, wow, that worked really well. We're just gonna keep that thing
Yeah.
following, like whatever. And I think that that's great. But that was super fun. I want to segue over, unless you have anything else you want to add on to that. Do you have any
No.
plugs, any pitches, anything you want to share other than we want to know why what No Bears Allowed, why the name is there?
Right,
So just drop it in the
right.
comments.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, I
yeah.
just realized
No.
this is an insignia, and it looks like my shirt is wet. I don't know why it's like on the pocket. It's weird that it's just
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
why it's there.
I guess
Anyway,
it's a good time to talk the elephant in the room that we're
yeah,
wearing the same shirt.
that's true. That is true.
Not
We did not
planned,
plan
not
this.
planned.
Completely improvise.
Hey, there you go. There you go. I actually
And
have another
surprisingly, it looks
shirt.
very well with a yellow background. This green,
I know. Well,
whatever this
it's
color is. I
funny
think it's
because
green.
if you were wearing a beige shirt, I would have worn this. And if you were wearing a blue shirt, I would have worn this. But I'm glad you were
Great.
wearing a green shirt.
Yeah, neither one of us
So
had to change. We both just happened to wear these shirts today.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Matches my blue
No, but
glasses.
no,
Not at all.
definitely not. No, as far as like plugging, I'm on Instagram at just Andrew Bourne, just one word. And then I'm on TikTok, and I have some TikTok sketches on there. At
You got a
Andrew
following on
Bourne
TikTok?
_. No, I do not. I have 400 followers, but I
Good
have
for
had
you.
one that went viral. But that's pretty much it.
I have like 860, and I had one video hit 31,000. But yeah, we'll link it all
Nice.
in the chat so you can follow social medias down in the description in the chat. You'll find it. Just click on things. Great.
Nice.
Um, anything else you want to plug, Andrew?
I don't think so. No, I think I'm
Great. And
good.
if you have anything else, I'm sure you'll post it on Instagram or TikTok so we can always check
Yeah.
out things coming up. Thanks again for joining me here on the Improv Summit. I do have a final question for you. And that question
Yeah.
is kind of the reason why the Improv Summit exists. A lot of times I get people who ask me, where should I take improv? Because I've taken a lot of different places and teach improv and play and all this stuff. And it's hard for me to answer that question because I feel like it's just a vast, like it's such a vague, there's so much to it. So if someone came up
Hmm.
to you and asked you, where should I take improv? What would be like one piece of advice or one tip you'd give to someone to help guide them on their improv journey?
Yeah, I would say like maybe just asking that person what kind of improv they want to do, whether that improv is like for making sketches, for making them a better speaker, and then or if they're interested in characters or if they're interested in game more. Because like if they're interested in game, UCB, rest in peace.
Well, it's
Would
still here.
and it's in is it in LA? Okay,
It's
gotcha.
they have Franklin, they don't have Sunset anymore.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Yeah, so
they're still doing classes online. I don't think they have any shows right now, but
yeah.
classes online.
Okay.
But they have their
Well, then
Franklin
that's
space. But
good.
I mean, but yeah, like it's like
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
see we're seeing what happens with the future.
yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like LA has the most improv and sketch right now because of the Groundlings and UCB. Because like I know New
Hmm.
York is less so, but I'm also like not super knowledgeable about the theaters in those places. But yeah, I would just
And
kind
you
of like ask
can.
that person what kind of improv they want to do because each theater has a completely different philosophy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's great. I love that. A lot of big things are definitely figuring out what you want out of improv, and if you don't know, that's okay because you can take a class, and then if you don't like that type of training, go somewhere else. Also,
mhm.
watching shows of those different schools, whether they're big schools or smaller schools, everyone has a like vibe, like a type of show. So I think that that's a really great way to kind of round things out of just kind of figuring out what you want, and if you don't know, it's totally fine. You'll figure it out along the way. Andrew, thanks again so much for joining me here on the Improv Summit. I did say that was the last question I had for you. But as always on this show, I'm Paul Giamatti, a big fat liar, and I have sometimes people get that reference, but if they're under the certain age of like certain ages, they don't understand that reference. So I don't even know if you got that reference, but
No.
there's a movie called Big Fat Liar, and Paul Giamatti plays a character who's a big fat liar. Um, so that's
Oh.
where it came from. The 2002 movie, of which I saw in
Mhm.
theaters back when I was in the double digits of age. But anyway,
What?
what do you mean what?
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 The double digits? Oh,
Yeah,
do you mean
I was,
20s?
no, I mean like I was more than nine.
Oh, okay.
I was 11 when that movie came out.
The way that sounded was that like back when I was in the double digits, now I'm in triple digits, is the way that
Oh, I
sounded.
see. I
You're
see. I was
like,
trying not
you're
to
like
give like
back
an
when I was in
age,
the double digits.
but
I was
I was 11 in 2002. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now people know how old I am. But anyway, um, so again, I'm a big fat liar, and I said that was the last question, but I do have another question, and that question is, we've been talking a lot about improv. You want to do some improv?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's
It's
do it.
exciting.
Yes, and let's do it. All right, we're gonna do some improv. Andrew, what I need from you is an answer to this question. Do you want a location, a relationship, or a word?
Word.
Word. I'm gonna give you two. You tell me which one to go with. The suggestions are parents or I'll give you three: parents, cones, or Da Vinci.
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. All right, great. Who'd you like to initiate this scene?
You got it.
All right, thank you, Da Vinci. This this is a nice painting. This is a nice painting. I really enjoy this painting. It is very, very good. It looks like it should be very expensive, and it is. It is not expensive. It should be a little bit more expensive, but it is a nice painting. This is a nice painting.
I'm so glad you like it. Should I make it more expensive, you think? I can do that.
I mean, it depends on how much you're worth, your value of your worth. I think I think $500,000 is it's a modest price, but I think you could up it a little bit more. But really, it's the value of your worth. If you feel like you're only worth 500,000, then keep it at 500,000. If you feel like you're a little bit less, then drop the price. But if you think you're worth
Yeah.
more, raise it up.
Well, I mean, look, when I came back to Earth, I realized like, wow, people really like my artwork. But I mean, when it was in my day, like of the Italian Renaissance, like I, I was selling it for nickels and dimes of Italian currency. I mean, like I didn't think everyone was gonna like it this much, but you think I should do more than 500,000? I'll do a million.
See,
Is that
Dave
okay?
Vinci, I don't think your confidence is quite where it used to be. I think you got to make choices for yourself. I think you got to figure out, do you feel like you're worth more than or less than or not enough or exactly at 500?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. can I be honest with you for a second?
Yeah, sure. That's why I'm here.
After the whole hand touching thing, I feel like I didn't, that was kind of the peak. And all my other, frankly, all my other peers at the time, they made fun of me. They said that I sold out, I putting things in the Sistine Chapel, that was selling out to the man, selling out to the Catholic Church. It's like, I
Well,
never
you did.
believed, huh?
I was gonna say you did paint the hand of God. So I mean, the Catholic Church does kind of make sense if you make that connection.
I know. I feel like I'm a sellout, and my work was never as good. I tried painting today. I tried doing the whole pointillism thing. I tried doing the splatter paint. It's just not me. I don't like all these
You're not a
new
Stuart. You're not
art.
a Pollock. That's for sure.
I just I feel like I'm irrelevant, Ever since I reincarnated, I feel like there's nothing for me anymore.
That Mona Lisa's still hanging up in the Louvre, so you got that going. People will remember who you are. Whether they remember you now versus in the past is different. That's what I'm saying. You got to put a price tag on this. You want people to remember the Da Vinci from before, the Da Vinci from now, because if you say this is the Da Vinci from before, you can charge a whole lot more.
But that's the thing. I want to be an artist now. I want to
You don't
make
want to live
work
in the
that's
past.
what?
You don't want to live in the past. You want to live in the now.
Yeah, exactly. I want to make art. I want to make art that's relevant in 2022. I don't want to make art that was relevant, that it's now archaeology, right? Like, look, I watched that
Right.
Indiana Jones movie when I came back. Like, I get it, but I don't want to be an artifact. I want to be a living, breathing artist.
Let me ask you
Maybe I
something.
should. I might cut off an appendage. What were you gonna say?
Don't be a Van Gogh. Let go
Okay.
of that idea. Van Gogh will get rid of it.
Okay.
Let me ask you
I'm
something.
thinking about it. I might
Can you
shave. What's up?
name a painting before 1900 that was painted before 1900? Any painting at all?
Um, I thought the cave art was pretty good by the
Great,
Dead Sea Scrolls.
great.
Okay.
By the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can you name? Can you now you name me a painting from 2022? See, this is what I'm talking about. All right, Da Vinci. Look, people remember the past. They don't remember the present. Do you want to be remembered for your art from before or your art from the now?
You're right. Heck, make it 2 million.
See, that's the confidence we needed. Thanks ever so much for coming to the Improv Summit. As always, I'm Spencer. That's Andrew. See you next time. Bye.